All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming to this last day of this California Seaweed Festival for community involvement and seaweed fun.
Yeah, day 6. I can't believe it's day 6 already. And it has been so exciting. It's wonderful. And then we have so many things to show you today. We're starting with some underwater video from Humboldt County, Humboldt Sea Life.
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited about this one because a couple of my friends made it, including Andrew Welts and Kirby Morjon. And this is just some great footage of some of the beautiful organisms, both fish and seaweeds that grow in Humboldt County. So enjoy.
That was beautiful. That was like I was there in the water. I felt like I was having a field trip.
Yeah, really beautiful work, and you can just see what a productive ecosystem that is. And you know, a lot has changed. I'm not sure what it looks like now. This video is from probably over 10 years ago. But yeah, really beautiful fish communities, invertebrates, seaweeds, and probably lots of phytoplankton too to keep the food web going. So hope you enjoyed that. Did some IDing as we were doing in the background over here. And
Yep. So
yep, go ahead.
up next, we have another look at the North Coast, actually, because we have a video from Larry Knowles at Rising Tide Seaweed. And he has been running a seaweed harvesting business there since 1981. So we'll just get that one showing and you'll see more beautiful North Coast.
My name's Larry Knowles. I'm the owner of Rising Tide Sea Vegetables. We're a business that harvests and sells edible seaweeds on the Mendocino coast, and we've been in business since 1981. Rising Tide is mainly a wholesaler. We sell to lots of specialty markets, natural food stores, Whole Foods, and then we also have a web business where we sell to individuals. Rising Tide is a unique business in that we harvest North American seaweeds. There are very few people who harvest North American seaweeds, and especially seaweeds from the West Coast. So we have this unique combination of cold ocean waters, temperate.
We lost the audio, I think.
Actually. So that makes for really lush, really rich, nutrient-dense seaweeds that we have put into this culinary line. So then people who understand nutrition, people who understand your minerals and trace elements and alkalization from this superfood that's the market that we're using, and especially the domestic market. We get our products out mainly to the Western United States. That's our main focus because it's a lower carbon footprint. The reason I'm committed to this business is because I love the idea of providing people with high quality food in a sustainable way and having them get it as locally as possible. You know, I'm reflecting on what it means to be involved with a business that is so tied to the ocean, tied to the environment, and is really what I hope a sustainable business that is providing something that's healthy for people. And the more I think about my doing this for the last, 30 years, the more I realize how lucky I am that I get to just watch these cycles, be in touch with what goes on with the ocean, be in touch with so many factors that I wouldn't have to be in touch with if my business wasn't dependent on it. All in all, I'm very grateful to have had this life doing what I'm doing, and I wish everybody could have a life that is so satisfying.
Cool. So that was really sweet. Just a nice personal story along with some footage of them, being out there and producing a great product,
Yes, just a nice way to live. Okay, I'm going to share the next video. Maybe you want to give a quick introduction, Simona.
Sure. So the next video is by Terry DeSelke from Ocean Harvest, and she is going to be actually on our panel, on the live panel later on today. So you can watch the video and ask her some questions, but she also ethically harvests different kinds of seaweeds from Mendocino, and also teaches at the Ukiah School District about sustainable farming and other practices. And she knows a lot about the nutritional value of seaweeds. So let's hear from Terry.
It's 4 a.m., the hour of the tiger. I pull on my wetsuit, grab a cup of tea, and drive from my home in the Redwoods to the Mendocino coast. In the cold, wet dawn, the crew unloads the wheelbarrow, bags, and knives from the truck, and we head to the Sleeping Dragon Rocks at Pine Beach. I climb gingerly down the steep, slippery sides of the rocks to the ocean floor below. The full moon is shining above the horizon as the tide makes its way out, the waves lapping gently against the rocks and seaweed below my feet. We sing our ceremonial song to Grandmama Ocean, thank our elders, and make our offerings for the great abundance of nurturing food and medicine she gives us. Taking a grape harvesting knife and bag, I walk to the edge of the water and touch the smooth, silky sea palm. Seaweed stretches as far as the eye can see. Just at the edge of the intertidal zone, the ocean ribbons dance back and forth with the spray of the water. I get busy working with the ebb and flow, taking a handful of sea palms in one hand and smoothly slicing it off with the knife in the other. I drop the fronds into the bag and continue cutting the smooth ringlets as I listen to and watch the swell of the ocean. The sun comes up over the eastern border of rocks, and I begin to sing. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo, it's all right. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo, it's all right. My bags begin to bulge with seaweed, and I hear and feel the tide coming back in, circling around my feet. I haul the bags back up the steep, rocky cliff before the waves get too big. As we labor under the weight of the wet seaweed, we tease each other, saying, "Some chicks go to the gym to work out." We load the wheelbarrow and take turns pushing it for the half-mile hike back to the truck. The seaweed is wrapped up with a hemp tarp, and I change into dry clothing and grab something to eat. Around noon, I head back to the seaweed drying tables in the redwoods, where I take the silky fronds from the bags and lay them out to dry in the intense heat of the day. Drying the seaweed in the sun locks in the prana, or life, and preserves its delicate flavor and texture. Just before sunset, I gather the dried, crispy seaweed into bags. I get the harvest gear together, and with gratitude for the ocean's abundance, I prepare for another day.
Great. So that was Terry DeSelke sharing some of her adventures ethically harvesting wild seaweeds. And next, we've got Nancy Caruso. She's also known as the Kelp Lady, and she does a lot of citizen science and works in Southern California to both educate and also spread awareness about kelp and white abalone restoration. Is there anything you'd like to add, Janet?
Well, Nancy is going to be in our panel.
Yes, thank you.
Coming up very soon, and then we'll have her talk more about what she's doing. But this is really a tribute, this short documentary, a tribute to her from the people she's worked with. So I think you'll enjoy it. And it sets us up nicely for this theme of community and fun and doing things in the community with the seaweeds and for the seaweeds.
So this is our last video for the screening and for the festival. So enjoy.
Nancy Caruso is my hero because she has single-handedly led the attack, if you want to call it an attack, on restoring the kelp to our oceans. And the kelp, of course, is the place where the sea life thrives, and we see it every day. 95% depleted when she started, and now it's like a giant garden out in the ocean. Not only has she done that, but she's inspired a whole community of people with her Kelp Fest to follow her and get involved with her and participate in this process. And last but absolutely not least, she has gone into inner city schools, and she's had these young people who probably have never seen the ocean, raising kelp and abalone and sea bass and coming back to the ocean to release them. And what an inspiration she's been, not only for the ocean, but for the future of the custodians of the ocean. Thank you, Nancy Caruso.
My name is Nancy Caruso. I'm a marine biologist and the founder and executive director of Get Inspired. Get Inspired is a nonprofit organization dedicated to inspiring passion and purpose through the discovery of arts and sciences. Get Inspired has a program called the Orange County Ocean Restoration Project. That project was started in 2002 in an effort to restore the kelp forests of Orange County. The kelp forest disappeared about 30 years ago, and not many people noticed it because they're invisible, they're underwater. So you could drive down to the beach and it would look just like it did 30 years ago, except there wasn't any kelp underwater. Not many people get the chance to go under there and see what it looks like, but it really does look like a forest when it's nice and healthy. Kelp is also actually in thousands of products that we as consumers use on a daily basis. So things you probably would never have thought of, like stuffed olives or Band-Aids or Mrs. Fields apple pies, Mrs. Fields cookies, McDonald's apple pies, blueberry waffles, diet salad dressing, cream puffs. Alginate actually is the compound that's extracted from the kelp. Alginate is used to thicken and make things creamy and smooth. And so imagine, if you will, if you've ever made a glass of chocolate milk at home, and you use this, either the powder or the syrup, and you pour a big, tall, cold glass of milk, and then you pour your syrup or your powder in there, and you stir it up, and it's nice and chocolatey, and then the phone rings. So you walk away from the chocolate milk. You come back 15 minutes later, the chocolate's on the bottom of the glass, right? Well, have you ever bought a chocolate milk from school or from 7-Eleven, and you open it up, you don't have to shake it. The chocolate never separates from the milk. You know why? Algae. So we got all these people together who cared, and they were empowered to restore it, grow it again in their classrooms. The kids were growing little tiny microscopic spores of algae, and they got excited that it was being planted in the ocean. The volunteers were out there monitoring it, making sure it was growing and planting it just in the right spots. And over a period of about 10 years, we were able to bring the kelp forest back. And that's important because over 800 different species rely on them. So lobsters and abalone and sheephead and kelp bass and halibut and snails and all of the things that we think of when we think of life off of our coast, they all rely on those kelp forests. They're considered the rainforests of the sea. So we were able to restore those with the help of all those people, and all of them took ownership in the kelp to the point where they'd come and ask, how's our kelp doing? And I got to say, it's doing great. So KelpFest was started in 2009, and it came out of a need to kind of explain to the community that they now have a kelp forest to take care of and to love. And the kelp had come back, and it was starting to flourish, and people were talking about it. You could go places and hear, oh, have you seen the kelp? But there was also kelp washing up on the beaches because that's natural. As the kelp, actually, each frond of the kelp lives for only about 4 to 6 months. And it breaks off and floats off into the ocean, and it's responsible for carrying the reproductive spores with it to spread around the ocean. But it also washes it up on the beach, and that's a whole other ecosystem called kelp rack. The people who live along the coast actually started to complain. There's kelp on the beaches, and there hasn't been kelp here for 30 years. And so I started pulling pictures from the 1800s and early 1900s and showing people what the beaches are supposed to look like, but it wasn't helping. So the KelpFest was born, and now it's blossomed into a musical event and 2,000 participants, arts and crafts and public art projects, and invite artists. One of the big things with KelpFest is to have people have an appreciation for kelp. We've got to show them what it looks like. And again, not everybody goes underwater, so we display it visually as many different ways as we possibly can. There'll be all different types of visualizations for people to connect to the kelp. And then they'll also have a chance to eat it and paint it and draw it themselves. So hopefully they walk away that day saying, hey, that kelp stuff, that's not that bad, and it's actually kind of pretty. That's the goal of the KelpFest. So after the restoration of the kelp forests, we started thinking about, well, what else needs help in our local waters? So we came up with green abalone and white sea bass, both of which were dwindling, the numbers were dwindling, and the green abalone is on its way to being endangered. Baby abalone, when they're born, are actually planktonic, meaning they float in the ocean on the surface currents, and they're microscopic, you can't even see them. So when the students get them in their classrooms, we actually have nurseries in the classrooms, and they hold about 23 gallons of water, and right now they're getting abalone that are about 3 years old. So they come from local farms, and they're about this big, and the students now, they have eyes, they can make contact with them and look at them, they name them and put little beads on them to identify them, we measure them, and of course feed them. There's actually a Facebook page for green abalone. We're watching to see if our restoration takes, if it's successful, and if it is, then it's a recipe for restoration of the species up and down the coast. Not everybody knows that there's lots of art in science. It takes a lot of creativity to do what we're doing because no one's ever done it before. The white sea bass is a commercially and recreationally very important species in Southern California. They get to about 5 feet long and about 90 pounds. The numbers of those species were also dwindling, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife is a partner with Get Inspired on all these projects. And we also partner with Hub SeaWorld Research Institute on the white sea bass project. So they spawn them in their tanks down there, and then they give us the little babies, and the students up here in Orange County take care of them and raise them. They grow very fast. They can grow about 3 to 4 inches in about 4 or 5 months. And so the students are taking care of the tank, making the seawater, testing the chemistry daily, and of course feeding them as much as they'll eat. And we can release them in the ocean. They don't become dinner for another type of fish. But we've actually taken students underwater with the fish to release them in the kelp forest. Students have got scuba certified. They swim over and hide in the kelp, just like they're supposed to. There's absolutely nothing like a crystal clear day underwater with bright shining sun coming through the canopy of the kelp, where it looks like a stained glass window and makes the light dance on the bottom of the ocean floor. And you can just lay upside down and watch it dance. It's beautiful. There's nothing like it.
Well,
All right,
that was,
I'm inspired, right?
oh, thank you. That was so inspiring. What a great video.
Yeah, just amazing. When I first made the first announcement about the California Seaweed Festival, Nancy contacted me like immediately and said, "This is great. How can I be involved?"
Awesome.
So
Well, I look forward to hearing more from Nancy in our panel in just about a half hour. So make sure to tune in for the last panel for the California Seaweed Festival. So that's going to be at 4 p.m.
all right, see you there. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.